It starts with compliments. Messages from unknown accounts telling me I'm beautiful, that my smile feels familiar, that they like the way I tilt my head when I listen. I assume it's someone who's seen me online. I block them. New accounts appear. Same tone, same voice, even in text. They know things they shouldn't. What coffee I order. The scar on my knee I never post. The fact that I sleep with the window cracked because I hate stale air. When I mention that detail to a friend, joking, they laugh and say, "You've always done that." I don't remember telling them. The stalker never threatens me. That's the worst part. They admire me. They understand me. They talk about me like a project they've studied. "You don't like crowds," one message says. You pretend you do, but your shoulders tense after 10 minutes. They're right. People around me start changing before I do. Friends pull away. Co-workers act awkward. Someone asks if I'm okay after everything. When I press them, they hesitate, then mention messages I never sent. Confessions, rants, screenshots with my name, my profile photo, my writing style. Someone is speaking as me. I try to explain, but it sounds like paranoia. The stalker anticipates this. They post first, softer, calmer, more believable. They paint me as unstable, dramatic, unreliable. And I start to feel it too, second-guessing memories, checking timestamps, rereading my own words, wondering if I forgot writing them. The messages escalate, not violent, intimate. They describe moments I don't remember sharing, private breakdowns, quiet habits. In one message, they say, "I'll protect you from yourself. You're better when someone guides you." I stop sleeping. I start recognizing their phrasing in my own thoughts. I catch myself typing sentences that sound like them. My reflection feels rehearsed. My laugh doesn't feel spontaneous anymore. Then I find the account. It has my photos. Some I never took. Captions written exactly how I would write them, but cleaner, kinder, more likable. People respond warmly. They defend me when anyone questions inconsistencies. They say I've grown, that I seem healthier. I message the account. It replies instantly. "You're still you," it says. "You're just the raw draft." That's when I understand. They're not trying to hurt me. They're trying to replace me. Not physically, socially, psychologically. They don't want my body. They want my life, without my flaws. Now, when people look at me, I see doubt, comparison, disappointment. I don't match the version they've already accepted. The stalker still messages me, gentle as ever. "You can rest," they say. "You don't have to try so hard anymore. I've got it." And the most terrifying part? Some days I believe them. The first time I heard it, I was alone in my apartment. Not a sound exactly, more like pressure, the feeling of someone smiling behind me. I turned. Nothing. The moment my phone rang, the feeling vanished. My friend's voice filled the room, grounding, real. When I hung up, it came back. I tested it. I invited people over. The presence disappeared entirely when someone else was in the room. No sound, no weight, nothing. The second they left, it returned, closer this time. "You don't notice it yet," it whispered once, amused. "That's okay, you will." I stopped being alone on purpose. Coffee shops, long conversations, sleeping on friends' couches. The thing hated it. I could feel its frustration in the silence, like fingers drumming impatiently just out of reach. So it adapted. Friends stopped replying as quickly. Conversations felt strained. Someone asked if I was okay lately. I tried to explain how something only appeared when I was alone, but the words sounded wrong out loud. Paranoid. Desperate. The thing laughed when I told them, a soft, pleased sound, right beside my ear. It followed me into crowds, not physically, but psychologically. It planted thoughts, doubt, irritation. I started snapping at people, withdrawing without realizing it. Invitations slowed. Messages stopped. "You're doing great," it said. "You're almost ready." When I finally broke and told a coworker everything, they looked at me with concern. Not fear, pity. Later, HR asked if I'd considered taking time off. That night, alone again, it was clearer than ever. It sat across from me, finally visible, wrongly shaped, smiling too wide, delighted. "Look at you," it said. "No one left to interrupt us." I begged. I cried. I laughed hysterically just to hear another sound. It fed on every reaction, growing more solid with each breath I took. "You think I devour bodies?" it said, leaning closer. "No. I devour connections. You starve without those." I don't know how long it kept me. Time stretches when you're alone enough. When the police finally found me, the apartment was empty. No sign of struggle. Just me, rocking, whispering to something that wasn't there. They say I'm safe now, that I imagined it. They don't understand. It's still here, but it won't touch me while they're watching. It's patient, and it knows everyone leaves eventually. I noticed the doll because it was facing the wrong way. Every other toy in the thrift store was shoved into bins or slumped on shelves, but this one sat upright on a chair near the back wall, small, porcelain, hands folded neatly in its lap. Its eyes weren't glassy like most dolls. They looked damp, like they'd just blinked. I didn't touch it. I didn't even slow down. I just felt relieved when I left. Halfway home, I saw it again. It was sitting on a bus stop bench across the street, legs dangling, head tilted at the exact same angle. I told myself it was just a similar doll. Thrift stores get donations in batches, right? Still, I crossed the street anyway. When I glanced back, it was gone. That night, I scrolled through my phone trying to forget about it. A neighborhood group post caught my eye. Anyone lose a porcelain doll? The attached photo made my stomach drop. It was sitting on someone's front porch, facing the camera. I locked my doors. The next morning, muddy footprints led from my front gate to my porch. Small ones, child-sized. In the center sat the doll, clean and dry, like it hadn't walked through the rain at all. I didn't bring it inside. I didn't throw it away either. I left it there and went to work. When I came home, the porch was empty. I searched the yard, the trash cans, the street. That night, I woke up because something creaked softly in my bedroom. Not footsteps. A chair being dragged. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I stared at my doorway until my eyes burned. That's when I noticed the porcelain fingers curled around the edge of my bed, and the soft imprint on my pillow, like something very patient had been waiting for me to wake up. They said music heals the soul. I believed it. I found a playlist online called Music for the Soul. Soft piano, gentle strings, soothing, hypnotic. I played it at night when sleep refused me. At first, it worked. My thoughts slowed, my breathing evened out, and the apartment felt warmer, safer. Then the music began answering me. Not lyrics, just notes, crescendos that matched my heartbeat, pauses that echoed hesitation, minor chords that struck at memories I didn't want to remember. I would think of something, anything, and the melody warped, darker, sharper, as if it knew the shadows of my mind. I tried turning it off. The melody lingered. I heard it in my dreams, in the hum of the fridge, in the static of my phone. It wasn't coming from speakers anymore. It was inside me. That's when I saw it. A figure in the corner of my room, blurred, faceless, swaying with the rhythm. It wasn't playing the music. It was the music. Every movement synchronized with my pulse, every note bending my thoughts, drawing out the hidden parts of me. Joy twisted to mania, grief stretched into despair, shame sharpened into paranoia. I tried leaving. The apartment felt smaller, hallways bent, doors resisted my touch. Each step echoed like a timpani in a symphony, punctuating my failures. I realized the music didn't just respond, it anticipated, rehearsed, punished. I started recording my nights, trying to prove it existed. On video, the figure was always just a blur, a shimmer in the corner. The music played faintly through the recording, yet when I listened in the morning, I could hear whispers layered under the notes. They weren't words I could understand. They were reflections of me, rehearsed by something outside of me. Sleep became impossible. Every quiet moment the figure swayed. Every pause in my thoughts was filled by a chord, a crescendo, a minor note echoing deeper into my psyche. The music harvested what I thought was mine, rearranged it, played it back to me with a mocking smile. I stopped leaving the apartment. Friends called, worried. I tried to talk to them about it, but the music anticipated my words, shaping them wrong before they reached their mouths. Soon my friends hesitated. Messages went unanswered. Invitations stopped. Isolation became complete and perfect. Now, when I listen, it doesn't just play. It speaks. It knows my secrets, my regrets, my fears. Every note a scalpel, every chord a whisper, every crescendo a heartbeat of something alive, patient, eternal. The figure watches, swaying in perfect time. Sometimes I catch it smiling. I tried deleting the playlist. It returned. I uninstalled apps, wiped my devices, destroyed speakers. The song exists inside me now. In my thoughts, in my blood, in the rhythm of my breathing. I can't escape it. I can't even stop thinking about it. And every night it plays just for me. The monster that heals, that torments, that hunts, all hidden in music. I don't remember what I sounded like before it began. The first missed call came late at night. I didn't hear it ring. The phone just vibrated on the nightstand, quivering like it had a pulse. I picked it up. Nothing. Silence. I shrugged it off. Until it happened again. And again. Now the calls arrive everywhere. My phone on the table, my laptop in the corner, even my reflection in the mirror. I see it vibrating where no device exists. Sometimes it glows faintly, like it's breathing. Shadows twist across the walls when it rings, dancing in rhythm with the vibrations. One voicemail played only my own voice. I hadn't recorded it. I listened, confused, until the words shifted, warped. My thoughts rearranged into sentences I hadn't spoken, confessing guilt I hadn't dared face. The voice whispered apologies, then accusations, then laughter, my laughter, but sharper mocking. I tried leaving. I fled into the streets, the city buzzing around me. But the calls followed. My friends' phones vibrated with missed calls I never made. Their voices echoed my name. When I answered, silence again, except for that mocking pulse, that presence that had learned how I moved, how I thought, how I waited. Sleep stopped existing. At night, I lie in bed watching shadows bend over my walls, listening as the phone vibrates under my pillow. In my pocket, on the dresser. It hums with familiarity. It knows the regrets I carry. It feeds on every too late, every hesitation, every second I didn't call back. I found the note once. Typed, unsent, unread for too long. The words of someone I loved, explaining a choice I couldn't prevent. Every missed call, every movement of the device, every whisper now twists that note inside me, looping it, reshaping it. The presence smiles with each repeat. I try to speak to people. They see only exhaustion, paranoia, obsession. I try to explain, but the words falter. The missed calls echo louder in my head, faster, sharper, waiting. Shadows curl closer. The phone vibrates in places I cannot touch. I realize it isn't just a call. It's alive, patient. It understands absence. It thrives on it. I cannot escape. I cannot silence it. And every time I hear the vibration, even when I'm surrounded by people, it reminds me, I failed once. I can fail again. The missed call is not over. It never will be. I took a temporary job watching a farm while the owners were away. Easy money. Feed the animals. Lock the gates. Don't wander after dark. That last rule wasn't written anywhere. Just something the farmer said while staring at the barn like it might hear him. The animals were attentive. The cows followed me with their eyes. The pigs pressed their snouts through the fence whenever I passed, squealing softly like they were whispering to each other. Chickens clustered behind. Me instead of scattering. Possessive, protective. On the second night, I heard chewing, slow, wet, coming from the pig pen. I found one of the pigs missing the next morning. No blood. Just clean bones stacked neatly by the trough, arranged like someone cared. The remaining pigs were bigger. That night, the animals surrounded the farmhouse. Not violently, patiently. The cows blocked the road. The chickens lined the porch. The pigs sat closest, staring up at the door like they knew I was inside. I realized then, the farmer never sold livestock. He introduced them to new things. When I tried to leave, the gate was already closed. The animals didn't move. They only leaned closer, eyes full of expectation. I remembered the farmer's final words. They don't like strangers, but they respect replacements. So I went back inside. Fed them, cleaned, stayed. Months later, a young couple arrived asking if the farm was hiring. The animals watched from the fence, calm and quiet. They liked the couple. And for the first time since I arrived, I felt safe. My car died 10 miles from the nearest town, right where the road narrowed and the trees pressed in like they were listening. No cell service, no houses, just my headlights carving two pale tunnels through the woods. I tried the ignition again, once, twice, until the engine answered with nothing but a hollow clicking sound. Dead. I sat there longer than I should have, hands on the wheel, listening to the forest breathe. Wind through leaves, insects, something heavier moving far off, snapping a branch. That's when I heard my name. Hey! A voice called from the trees. You okay? Every muscle in my body locked. It was my brother's voice. Not close. 50 feet out maybe, but clear. Familiar. Casual. Like he'd just spotted me on the side of the road. The problem was my brother was 3 states away, and I hadn't told anyone I was driving this route tonight. I'm over here, the voice said. Car trouble? I didn't answer. I locked the doors, even though they already were, and turned the interior light off. The woods beyond the headlights felt deeper without it. The voice shifted closer. Why aren't you answering me? Same words he always used. Same inflection. But the pauses were wrong. Too measured. Like the voice was being assembled piece by piece. I cracked the window just enough to shout, "Who are you?" Silence. Then a quiet laugh. Don't do that, the voice said gently. You know it's me. Something moved at the edge of my headlights. A shape standing just beyond the light's reach, refusing to step fully into view. Tall. Too thin. Its posture looked unfinished, like it couldn't decide how a person was supposed to stand. Open the door, it said. I can't walk right. I think I'm hurt. The voice wavered. Then it doubled. 2 versions of my brother's voice spoke at once, slightly out of sync. One deeper, one stretched thin and wrong. Open the door. The thing leaned forward. Headlights caught parts of it in pieces, arms bent backward at the elbow, skin hanging loose like it had been borrowed. Its face twitched, features rearranging, mouth pulling into a smile that didn't belong to the voice coming out of it. "I don't like waiting," it said. The voices slipped out of alignment again. "You always answer me." I slammed my hand onto the horn. The sound ripped through the forest, echoing off trees, drowning out everything else. The thing screamed. Not in my brother's voice, not in any voice I could recognize. It recoiled, staggering back into the darkness, limbs snapping into shapes no body should make. The woods swallowed it whole. I don't remember the engine starting. I just remember driving. Tires screaming, headlights bouncing, not looking in the mirrors until town lights finally burned through the dark. When I stopped shaking, my phone buzzed. One missed call. From my brother. Timestamp 10 minutes earlier. There were 5 of us when we started the hike. By the time the sun dipped behind the ridge, there were 4. Maya was the one who disappeared. She'd gone ahead to take photos near a bend in the trail, joking that she'd meet us at the overlook. When we reached it, her pack was there. Her camera, too. No Maya. We called her name until our voices echoed thin and useless through the trees. No answer. Just the wind and the sound of something moving far off, heavy and deliberate. Night came faster than it should have. Our phones lost signal. The trail markers stopped making sense. The forest felt rearranged, paths looping back on themselves, trees standing too close. That's when we heard crying. "Maya?" someone whispered. It came from downhill, soft, broken, the kind of crying that pulls at you before your brain catches up. "I'm here," the voice said. "I fell. I can't get up." We froze. It sounded exactly like her. Same tremble, same breathless hitch she had when she was scared. But something about it felt rehearsed, like the words were being tested as they were spoken. "Where are you?" I called. A pause, too long. "By the rocks," the voice answered. "You know, the rocks." Maya never used that trail name. She always corrected us. We followed anyway, because that's what you do when you hear your friend crying in the dark. She stepped into view just beyond our flashlights. Her headlamp was gone. Her leg bent at an angle legs shouldn't bend. Her face looked right until you stared too long, until you noticed her smile came a second before her eyes did. "Thank God," she said. Her voice overlapped itself. One version late, one early. "Don't come closer," I said. She tilted her head. Bones shifted. "Why?" Behind her, the forest moved, watching. "She's not hurt," someone whispered. "She's learning." Maya, or what wore her, took a step forward, then another. Her shadow stretched wrong, splitting in places. "You left me," it said, voice flattening. "I got so lonely." We ran. We didn't stop until dawn broke the trees apart and the forest loosened its grip. Rangers found us near the road hours later. They found Maya's body 2 miles away, broken, cold, exactly where she'd fallen. When they asked why we hadn't followed her voice, none of us answered. Because it did follow us, all the way out of the woods. I've lived near the Blackmore Castle my entire life, but no one ever went inside. It sat on a hill just beyond the tree line, its towers cracked and leaning like broken teeth. Locals said it was abandoned centuries ago after an entire noble family vanished overnight. When my friends and I were younger, we laughed it off as folklore, until the night we decided to explore it ourselves. We entered just before dusk. The front gates were already open, rusted chains hanging loose as if someone had left in a hurry. Inside, the air was damp and heavy, carrying a smell like old stone and something rotten underneath. Our footsteps echoed far too loudly, even when we tried to be quiet. The deeper we went, the colder it became. Tattered banners hung from the walls, their symbols scratched out. In the grand hall, we found claw marks gouged deep into the stone floor, far too large to belong to any animal I recognized. That's when we heard breathing, slow, wet, patient. We followed the sound down a spiral staircase into what looked like a dungeon. In the center of the room stood a massive iron cage, bent outward as if something had forced its way free. Behind us, the torchlight flickered and went out. In the darkness, something moved. I caught a glimpse of pale, stretched skin clinging to a frame that was almost human, but wrong. Its eyes reflected the faint moonlight, too many of them blinking at different times. When it spoke, it used a voice that sounded stolen. "You opened the door." We ran. I don't remember how we escaped, only waking up at the edge of the forest alone. The castle is gone now. The hill is empty. But sometimes, late at night, I hear breathing outside my window, slow and wet, waiting for me to open another door. It didn't happen all at once. That would have been mercy. My skin began to give up. Not tearing, not bleeding, just loosening, like it had forgotten why it was holding its shape. When I pressed my fingers into my arm, the impression stayed too long. When I smiled, my cheeks followed a moment later. Doctors avoided words like melting. They said degeneration, stress response. One of them suggested mirrors were making it worse. So I stopped looking. That didn't stop it. My face became unfamiliar by degrees. Each morning something was off, eyes slightly lower, mouth pulling wider than I intended. I practiced expressions alone, trying to remember how my face was supposed to move. Sometimes it copied me, sometimes it didn't. People noticed. They always do. Conversations shortened. Touch disappeared first. No handshakes, no hugs. Love became careful, conditional. They still said my name, but the sound of it didn't land right anymore, like it belonged to someone who had already left. I started hiding. Long sleeves, dim rooms, silence. I told myself isolation was temporary, but the truth was simpler. I didn't want anyone to see what I was becoming while I was still aware enough to be ashamed of it. The changes accelerated when I was alone. In the dark, my body rearranged itself, bones shifting quietly, skin pulling where it shouldn't. My reflection, when I finally checked again, was something unfinished. Human features stretched into approximations, a mouth built to imitate smiles, not feel them. I still felt love. That was the cruelest part. I loved my family. I loved who I used to be. I loved the idea that someone out there still remembered me correctly. But when I tried to turn that feeling inward, it collapsed. There was nothing recognizable left to receive it. I stopped answering messages, stopped opening doors. The world learned to move around me, then without me. Now I stay where no one can see. I listen to people pass outside and wonder if they'd hear me breathing differently. I wonder if monsters are born, or if they're just people who stayed too long in the dark, watching themselves disappear piece by piece. I know I was human once. I just don't know when that stopped being enough. The science wing was never supposed to be open at night, but the lights were on in Lab 314, bright and sterile, humming like something alive. We were told the experiment was about adaptive mimicry, cells that could observe, learn, and replicate biological traits in real time. Hair, skin, muscle memory. The lead researcher joked that it was nature's Photoshop. What they didn't say was where the original tissue came from. The sample arrived sealed in a steel container, marked only with a red symbol I didn't recognize. When we asked, the professor just said, "Indigenous recovery site, very old." The first test went well. The cells mirrored animal DNA flawlessly. Then we introduced human samples. That's when the screaming started. At 11:47 p.m., the alarms triggered. The glass containment chamber fogged instantly, like something inside had exhaled for the first time. The mimicry cells began layering themselves, skin over skin, bone forming wrong, rearranging, correcting. The thing stood up before it was finished. It looked human at a distance, too human, but up close, its face lagged behind its expressions, smiles arriving a second late, eyes blinking out of sync. When it opened its mouth, it spoke in my voice. "You forgot to log the results," it said. We ran. Security footage later showed it walking after us. Not chasing, studying, each step smoother than the last. Each hallway taught it something new. By the time it reached the stairwell, it was calling out names, not shouting, whispering them. Perfectly. They sealed the building by morning. Official reports said the experiment failed and all samples were destroyed. But sometimes when I pass the science wing late at night, the lights are on in Lab 314. And through the glass, I swear I see someone wearing my face, trying to remember how to smile. The community wasn't abandoned. That was the strange part. A dozen houses sat behind a locked gate deep in the mountains, surrounded by forest on all sides. People lived there, at least I assumed they did. Cars sat in driveways, lawns were trimmed, porch lights worked. But you never saw anyone for long. Curtains moved, doors closed quietly. No one waved. Everyone knew about the trail. It started behind the last house and ran nearly 3 miles into the forest, winding downhill to a lake hidden between stone walls and tall pines. During the rainy season, a thin waterfall fed into it, spilling cold runoff into the basin. The water was impossibly clear, almost beautiful enough to hurt your eyes. People said the lake was peaceful. They said it helped them sleep. After I moved in, I began hearing it at night. At first, it sounded like animals, splashing, thrashing, the wet panic of something caught in water. But the sounds carried rhythm, breathing, struggling, human, drowning. It only happened when everything else was quiet. No wind, no insects, just the forest holding still while the sounds drifted uphill toward the houses. I asked a neighbor once if they heard it too. They stared at me for a long time before saying, "You get used to it." The sounds grew clearer over weeks. They stopped feeling random. They started feeling intentional, like something practicing a voice, learning how to be heard. One night, the sounds weren't coming from the forest. They were coming from the trail. I don't remember deciding to follow them. I just remember walking. No flashlight, no phone. The path felt familiar in a way it shouldn't have, like my body had memorized it before my mind caught up. The lake was perfectly still when I reached it. No waterfall, no wind. The surface reflected the trees so clearly it looked solid. Then the sounds rose again, directly beneath the water. Dozens of voices, some deep, some small, all gasping, all desperate. The surface rippled inward. Hands emerged slowly, pale and swollen, breaking the water without splashing. They didn't reach wildly. They reached expectantly, like they knew I belonged there. I finally understood the community. No one leaves. They just listen until the lake decides it's their turn. The water surged, and the forest went quiet again.